And of course, they were like say copy and pasted onto thousands of other conspiracy theory websites, and next thing you know,
there we go.
Yeah. So anyway, back to the story. The bell supposedly, when it was activated, emitted very strong radiation, and supposedly it killed a bunch of scientists who were working on it. Because apparently, when they first turned it on for the first time, they didn't realize they were going to get fried. So. And also they had some test animal and plant subjects that also got toasted by the thing.
And am I right, Joe? I mean, this is terrible, but I remember some account saying that the scientists who died, at least one or two of them, their skin literally melted off.
I have heard these stories, yeah.
Okay.
What's that? Yeah.
Okay, so for everybody who doesn't know, because I actually started doing a little research, because I was thinking, well, it's got to be, let's just look at standard radiation.
The only thing that can make your skin melt off, like your face melt off, is the Ark of the Covenant. We know this from the documentary Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah.
Anything above 3,000 rads will burn your skin so badly and fastly that it could look like your skin was melting.
Yeah, there's only one problem with that, is that anybody who witnessed that event, they would melt too.
Yeah.
I guess
you'd have to be in a reactor, though, nuclear reactor, to get that kind of exposure. It's the easiest way to do it.
I guess the problem for me isn't so much that, like, okay, it's conceivable that somebody came in after and was like, wow, their skin has melted off of them. Right? That it doesn't necessarily have to be somebody witnessed it melting off of them.
That's very true.
But who turned it off?
That's good. Maybe somebody...
I mean, if it killed everybody that was close enough to, like...
Haven't you seen the action movie where the hero dies and falls on the off switch and saves the world? That's what this guy did.
No, actually,
he's an unsung hero.
No, actually, what happened is they were powering this thing via extension cord. The person in the next room heard the screaming, and then he pulled the extension cord out of the outlet.
Yeah.
It saved the day. But it's too late to save those guys.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm sure that's what happened, or something very much like that. Maybe you flipped the circuit breaker.
Sweet.
Yeah, supposedly the bell did require vast amounts of electricity to operate, and so nobody knows why that is.
That's weird.
Yeah, so it was supposedly...
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The usefulness of something goes down drastically when you have to actually, like, plug it in.
Yeah, I mean eventually maybe
maybe it becomes self-sustaining.
Yeah, and maybe your initial version requires 3 million volts, and stuff like that, and massive amounts of current. But maybe eventually, with refining and research and experimentation, you can get it down to where you can actually put it on a battleship or a tank or something like that, or a plane, if this was a weapon.
All of those things are things that I want to do with vast amounts of radiation.
Yeah,
but if you don't know what it's going to do, you don't know that radiation is going to decimate your crew.
That's true.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff that we did back in like the 40s and the 50s as far as experimentation with bombs and radiation. We had no idea that it was going to like kill so many people short and long term.
Yeah.
Well, you guys, I'm pretty sure both of you've seen is the movie that was shot by, I think they're Air Force soldiers out in the desert watching a nuke go off in the air, standing there and laughing and joking and talking about it, and it's like a mile above them.
Yeah.
So they're just bombarded with radiation.
I have not seen that.
It's really not easy to watch because they're just having a good time. And, wow, that's so awesome. And you're just looking at it going, you have no idea what is happening right now.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
Poor suckers at it. I think the most there are a lot of different films from all the experiments that they did back in those days, and the most horrible one that I ever saw, and it was truly awful, was like they were experimenting with protective suits for our troops that would protect them from the intense heat of a nearby nuclear blast, and it's like a heavy kind of tinfoil. So they made up a bunch of little suits for some pigs. So
No,
You're done.
No, I'm not going to tell you anymore. It was terrible.
It's already terrible.
Yeah,
Bacon.
It was bad.
Awful Fallout bacon.
Anyway, so back to Witkowski. According to him, the bell was built, or at least was housed, in a German facility known as the Riese, which is known as the Giant. And it's not a single building. It's like there's a valley in Silesia, which is in Poland, southern Poland, near the Czech border, about 75 miles east of the German border. And of course, that was German territory during World War II.
Yep.
And they built this massive complex. It wasn't just one building. It was actually, this valley had a lot of massive complexes and tunnels and all kinds of secret stuff going on in there.
I just want to mention how uncreative the Germans were when naming things. Everything is the something, right? Oh, yeah, that's the giant. That's the bell. That's
well, code names are like that, though. An intelligence officer can only go so far before he gets really bored with just coming up with words. Oh, it's the osprey. It's the eagle. Eventually, lamp, chair, table,
I like Pantinator.
project table.
Yeah, they often give
Project
them,
Table is more interesting than the Giant.
The Giant.
Oh, I don't
like
know. The Giant's kind of got a cool edge to it.
I think it's cool. I mean, it's kind of intimidating. If you heard that a giant was living in this valley, would you go down there? Hell no. Let's stay away. Witkowski also claimed that there was a massive concrete, well, not that massive, but, and there's pictures of it on the internet if anybody cares to go look, see. The structure with vertical concrete supports, and then it's like basically a concrete, steel reinforced, I'm sure, circle on the top of it.
It looks like Stonehenge, but made out of concrete.
Yeah, made out of skinnier stones, too.
Henge. Oh, okay, I get the name now.
Yep.
Yeah, and so he claimed that it served as a test rig where they could put the bell and experiment with anti-gravity stuff. He's claiming that there was some anti-gravity work involved here.
But didn't people say that they also thought that was probably just a cooling tower?
Yeah, exactly. The basis for a cooling tower. So, and that's kind of what it looks like. So, but that's what he claimed.
And that's like a nuclear cooling tower, right?
It doesn't look big enough. Nuclear cooling towers are pretty enormous.
Well, they're huge. So, so I was trying to figure out what kind of cooling tower that would be for.
I mean that's the thing about it is like when you look at the pictures of it, you can't really get an idea of the scale. It looks too small to be the base of a nuclear cooling tower.
But the thing is with a nuclear cooling tower is that they've got a structure on top of their base which kind of looks like the henge. So it could have been.
Yeah, it's always hard to tell. Surely there are pictures from the time somewhere.
Yeah, actually, what I think is. I think it looks like the base for a water tank.
Or something like that.
That would actually supply the water to a cooling tower.
That could be it.
Yeah, because
I don't know. The Germans weren't that far in terms of nuclear technology, as far as we know.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they would have a reason to use a cooling tower for nukes.
Well, I mean, there's other things that generate heat. I mean, it's like in other industrial applications.
That's true.
So it could have been just an ordinary thing.
Alternately, it was definitely a house for the bell.
It could have been.
I mean, I'm just saying.
To hold it down because it would have floated away.
No, just to like house it. Make a little pen for it,
That's like,
It'd be tall enough, right? They could test its floating capabilities, but not lose it out in the field somewhere.
But hang curtains around the side so people couldn't spy in and see what's going on.
Yeah.
It would be kind of funny and ironic if they take it out for the first anti-gravity test. They turn it on, it just goes whoop and disappears, and you never see it again.
Guess we're gonna have to start over again.
No, the better still would be they turn it on and it slowly starts to rise and it starts to rise and it starts to rise and then somebody says, "Do we know how to turn it off?" And
it's
no.
like a balloon. It just floats away.
Off it goes. No.
No. Quick, unplug it.
We made it self-sustaining.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, so anyway, so the anti-gravity thing was pursued somewhat by Nick Cook and also by Witkowski. Witkowski claims that the U.S. government actually has been working on anti-gravity devices for decades now and spending lots of money on it.
Oh.
Why wouldn't we?
Yeah, well, it's not a bad idea.
No, it's not at all.
Yeah, and the hunt for zero point energy is the energy state that a particle is in at its lowest state of energy when it's coldest. And so apparently, and I don't understand the physics behind this or the math behind this at all, but apparently a particle at that point, if you can harness the energy possessed by that particle, then it's almost infinite. In other words, we would have a fantastic energy source. This is what, although other physicists have derided this as basically the equivalent of a perpetual motion machine. If you can find a way to release that energy, then you'll have all kinds of energy, but the energy required to release that energy will probably be more. In fact, almost certainly will be more than the energy you'll get back. It's kind of like nuclear fusion, same thing. That's our perpetual motion machine that we've been striving after for decades.
So spend $2 to get $1.
Basically,
essentially.
yeah.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, nuclear fusion we've totally achieved. I mean, and it's not that we can't do that. We can do that easily, but getting more energy out of the transaction than we put in, that's the tough part. And we haven't figured that one out. When I was a kid, by today, we were supposed to all be, our entire society was going to be powered by nuclear fusion. They were sure of it. We're still about that far away. Yeah.
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 So when you're a kid again, it'll be there, maybe.
Yeah. Hey, kids, when you're adults, it's going to be all fusion. Yeah. I remember, and actually I wasn't around for this, but when nuclear power first came out, they said the energy would be so cheap there would be no point to even charging people for electricity. And of course, that didn't come about either.
No. There was a lot of awesome claims that didn't really pan out.
A lot of optimism, yeah. I mean, there was talk after Hiroshima and Nagasaki. There was some actually people theorizing that it would be a fantastic money saver because we could dismantle our army. Because we just have nukes. Every time something goes wrong in the world, we'll lob a nuke at them. And so there's no point in having a standing army, tanks, battleships, or any of that stuff. Yeah, that never came about either. So besides the anti-gravity propulsion thing, that involved that big hinge-like thing, there are other claims. There's been a number of authors that have come out with books about this thing. And one author says that the Bell was so important to the Nazis that they killed 60 scientists who were working on the project and buried them in a mass grave.
I did come
That
across
doesn't really sound like Nazis, mass graves.
Yeah, mass graves?
No, not at all.
No.
No, not at all. No, it's like, mass graves are kind of popular all around the world, frankly.
Unfortunately.
That's a great way to advance your project, though. It's so secret, we're going to kill you. That's how important your work is to us. Yeah, we're going to kill you.
So hurry up, get it done.
We value you so much.
Yeah. There's another author claims that it contains red mercury, and red mercury is kind of this big hoax. We talked about that already. But he said that it had, when you put a concave mirror on the top of the device, it gave you the ability to see images from the past.
What?
So it's a time machine. Igor Vitkowsky said that the Bell ended up in a South American country. Nick Cook claims it was taken to the U.S. as part of a deal made with a general named Hans Kammler.
Sounds
so if
like
this thing did exist, we don't know where it went.
You and I don't.
Us as the general public.
Government might.
Okay, now I know that we're about to get into theories, but before we get into that, what I'm curious about is when I did some of the research, this Bell, the Nazis moved it around a lot.
They did.
Over the course of 2 years, and this thing seems like it would be kind of a big deal to move around, and they moved it around, and I almost got the impression through some of the reading that they had more than one.
I've heard that rumors of more than one also.
The first one, and then, we gotta go here. Well, let's just build a new one there, and rather than packing this thing over there.
Yeah.
Which seems, I guess if it's not hard to make, that's okay, but it's, again, they were doing strange things. They were shuffling the deck constantly, so who knows what was going on in the high command.
Yeah, and this is one of those things, too, like we've talked about in previous stories. Some of these stories grow in the telling. I remember, I know Vitkowsky only claimed that it was down in the Giant, the valley with all the cool secret facilities. But then other people have chimed in and said that no, it was housed in this university, and it wound up being moved here and moved there, and it's like, okay, maybe.
I guess the hard part is you don't know which is the true vein of truth.
Right.
Yeah.
The true vein of truth.
Yeah. So anyway, let's talk about some theories.
Sweet.
Yeah, we've already talked about this a little bit. It was an anti-gravity device that was claimed by Witkowski and Cook that then were doing anti-gravity experiments, which could conceivably have produced a very powerful weapon for the war. I mean, I'm thinking like if you had a powerful enough anti-gravity device, you could build like a land battleship. Imagine a tank, but it doesn't need to actually like touch the land; it just floats over it, and it's like not the size of a tank; it's like the size of a small building. Yeah, that'd be kind of cool.
That would be terrifying.
And I know that some of the people that are supporting that it was for anti-gravity they point out that scientists that were, and this is supposed, but scientists that were involved in the V2 and the V1 program, which is the Nazis' rocket program, which they were the innovators, and they had the farthest reaching rockets at the time.
Oh, yeah. They were way ahead of us.
Yeah, the same scientists were involved with the Bell. So they were thinking, well, if I can only get it so far propelled by fuel, what if I could just make the thing float over there? And the conjecture was that they were doing it because they knew they couldn't use a rocket, fuel-based rocket, to go all the way to, say, the States.
Yeah, which was something that they were working on.
Yep,
The bomb that
but
could make
if
the
you
US.
had an anti-gravity device that could go there, it would be much simpler, and you could do it with less fuel because it's just floating along on its own
floating
power
along,
rather than pushing its way through the atmosphere and fighting gravity.
And I guess it wouldn't, if it were something that was kind of big and heavy, like the Bell, I think, kind of was, right? You don't even need to put explosives really in it for it to have some kind of damaging effect. If you've got a thing that's going really fast, that's really heavy, you can just barrel it through a bunch of stuff, right? Or even like ships. You don't have to shoot missiles or anything like that. You just shoot your thing and it pokes a hole in it. And
Well, I was thinking more of it like it's just towing some kind of nuclear device or some kind of explosive device. Nuclear is the wrong word. Explosive device.
Yeah.
Like you watch helicopters towing things and they're dragging it under, they're suspended beneath them. So if this thing could float on its own and then just carry an explosive and then just get over its target and drop it and keep going, theoretically, that means it can come back to home and you can use it again.
There's lots of uses for it.
Yeah, I mean, they're all nefarious.
Yeah.
But
Well,
and that's the thing, you know, in order to like not be knocked down by U.S. fighters or whoever they were planning on attacking, they would have to be like above the atmosphere. So that essentially have to be a spaceship.
Yeah.
But you know, I mean, the Nazis were way ahead of us in many other regards,
Yeah.
so they could have done that too.
Yeah.
Mostly, you know, it's shocking how far you can get when you don't really care about morals and people.
Yeah, true that. Yeah, but yeah, that was. We're gonna talk about some of those people, by the way, before we're done here.
Awesome.
Yeah, I know. So the anti-gravity thing, even though it's and Cook spent a lot of time in his book talking about not just the Bell, but talking about the U.S. government in general investigating the whole anti-gravity thing. They're like, he claims that they've been doing it a lot. He thinks that they have the Bell. He thinks that they've been spending a lot of money on anti-gravity research, which, you know, actually wouldn't really surprise me because actually it's something we should be trying to understand. If it's possible to understand how to make gravity waves, how to block gravity waves, then that would be pretty useful technology.
Yeah, you know, thankfully we haven't had any suggestions, nor do I think we have any interest in ever tackling like Roswell or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I do know that a lot of the kind of more modern, more believable theories about Roswell and Area 51 and things like that are that people see these things that they identify as unidentified flying objects because the U.S. military is testing these new kind of propulsion systems or anti-gravity or anything like that.
Or even stuff that's not even that out of this world, like the stealth fighter.
Which they definitely were developing there.
Yeah, and they kept that under wraps for a long time.
Absolutely.
And supposedly the CIA has admitted they actually stirred the pot with UFO stories for a while, just so that if people spotted one of our experimental aircraft flying around, they would be dismissed as kooks.
Yeah.
So
And I think
like,
you know that's a strong possibility.
Smart play.
It is,
Yeah.
and
Oh, yeah.
it would not shock me at all if that was something that we were working on. I don't have a problem with them working on that or keeping it secret. Honestly.
well, it would be an extremely powerful technology
Yeah.
if anybody could actually do it. But I don't know that we understand gravity well enough at this point to really create an anti-gravity machine.
Yeah, I don't think we do.
Yeah, I could. If we figure it out in this day and age, it's gonna be an accident.
Yeah.
We're gonna stumble upon something and go, whoa.
And we won't
how did that
understand.
happen?
We'll know how to do it, kind of, but
We won't know how to do it right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but so I think that as far as like, you know, grabbing the Nazi Bell and trying to rebuild the Nazi Bell, I think the better to just fund theoretical research by scientists into gravity and the nature thereof and all that stuff. We need to understand gravity a little bit better.
That's probably a good way to start.
Okay, so anyway, there's all, and I mentioned previously also there was a time travel machine theory, and this was like, you know, didn't allow you to go back or forward in time, but you could see backward in time. which would be kind of cool.
I guess, but I've always thought that that's one of the least useful time travel technologies.
I mean,
the ability to see into our past.
Yeah.
Right? Because,
exactly.
okay, so I can understand seeing into our future or traveling into our past, but seeing the past is kind of like, no, we saw that already.
Yeah, it'd be
maybe not all of the
It'd
aspects.
be useful for murder investigations and things like that.
I was going to say, let's put this into context. A detractor is what you were called when you got reported to the SS. Was that the correct
A
word?
detractor?
Yeah, what do they call when somebody would out you and say, "Oh, he's